Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Chapter number 25, Second Year Biology, Evolution. The scientific inquiry provides the answers of various questions. How did life arise on Earth? How old is planet Earth? The gradual changes in the organisms is called evolution, और change in allelic and gene frequency इसे भी हम evolution कहते हैं। यानी वक्त के साथ साथ जो changes आती हैं organisms के अंदर उसे एवोल्यूशन कहते हैं, और एलिलिक एंड जीन फ्रीक्वेंसी को भी हम एवोल्यूशन कहेंगे। एवोल्यूशन हैज़ ट्रांसफॉर्म द लाइफ फ्रॉम अर्लीस्ट फॉर्म टू वास्ट डाइवर्सिटी। एवोल्यूशन ने लाइफ को उसकी अर्लीस्ट फॉर्म से वास्ट डाइवर्सिटी में चेंज कर दिया। डार्विन वाज द फर्स्ट हु गेव एविडेंस अबाउट एवोल्यूशन। डार्विन ने सबसे पहले एवोल्यूशन का एविडेंस दिए। ही प्रोपोज्ड अ मैकेनिज्म ऑफ एवोल्यूशन। उसने एवोल्यूशन का मैकेनिज्म प्रपोज किया। ही नेम्ड दिस मैकेनिज्म एज नेचुरल सिलेक्शन। Two schools of thoughts emerged in the early 19th century. First are creationist. All living organisms came into existence in their present form. और इसमें कार्लस लीनियस थे. Also believed in divine creation. Evolutionists believed in the theory of the natural selection. और ये डार्विन ने पेश की थी. Organisms evolved through time. One type of organism gave rise to another type. This idea started from the time of Aristotle. उसके बाद some scientists हैं जिनकी कंट्रीब्यूशन है. लमार्क लीनियस हैं, इन्होंने बाइनोमियल नोमेनक्लेचर दिया. लमार्क हैं, पब्लिश्ड हिस थ्योरी ऑफ एवोल्यूशन. माल्थस essay on principles of evolution. Cuvier explained Earth history and paleontology. Lyell principles of geology. Darwin voyage of beagle and origin of species. Mendel published paper on inheritance. Wellick sent his theory to Darwin. Evolution of prokaryotes की evolution कैसे हुई? Prokaryotes may have arisen 3.5 billion years ago. Went hypothesis about origin of anaerobic prokaryotes. According to this hypothesis, life started deep in the oceans. Deep oceans have underwater hot springs called hydrothermal vent. Archaeobacteria lived in these vents. Bacteria can tolerate temperature up to 120 degree centigrade. उसके बाद evolution of photosynthetic prokaryote. The first photosynthetic organism used the hydrogen sulfide as the source of hydrogen. This hydrogen reduced the carbon dioxide into sugar. Evolution of aerobic prokaryotes. Later, water was used in place of hydrogen sulfide. Oxygen was released during photosynthesis reaction. The oxygen started accumulating in the atmosphere slowly and began to change ozone. Enough ozone built about 420 million years ago. तो यहाँ पे evolution of aerobic prokaryotes की बात बताई जा रही है. फिर evolution of eukaryotes. Eukaryotes का evolution कैसे हुआ? Eukaryote first appeared in 1.5 billion years ago. Two hypotheses about the evolution of eukaryote. First है endosymbiont hypothesis. Endosymbiont hypothesis means the large anaerobic amoeboid prokaryote ingest small aerobic bacteria. Amoeboid prokaryote did not digest the bacteria and aerobic bacteria and stabilized themselves and stored living symbiotically. और ये दोनों symbiotically रहना शुरू हो गए. So the anaerobic prokaryotes become eukaryote. This hypothesis is known as endosymbiont hypothesis. Line Margulis proposed this. Some aerobic bacteria develop into mitochondria. Eukaryotic cells ingest the cyanobacteria like prokaryotes. It develops chloroplast. Membrane invagination hypothesis. According to this hypothesis, prokaryotic cell membrane invaginate and enclose the copies of genetic material. In this invagination, several double membrane bound entities were formed by this invagination in a single cell. These entities then change into the eukaryotic mitochondria, nucleus, and chloroplast. This is the membrane invagination hypothesis. Inheritance of acquired characters. Jean-Baptiste Lamarck in 1809 published his theory of evolution and proposed two ideas: use and disuse. Those parts of the body extensively used become stronger and larger, while those that are not used become deteriorate, like blacksmith and giraffe. Inheritance of acquired characters. Modification of organisms acquired ड्यूरिंग इट्स लाइफ टाइम कैन बी पास टू इट्स ऑफस्प्रिंग. जो भी मॉडिफिकेशन आती हैं ऑर्गेनिजम्स के अंदर वो उसके ऑफस्प्रिंग्स में पास हो जाती हैं. ऑब्जेक्शन वी नो दैट एक्वायर्ड कैरेक्टर्स कैन नॉट बी इनहेरिटेड, कि एक्वायर्ड कैरेक्टर्स जो है वो इनहेरिट नहीं होते. चार्ल्स डार्विन वाज बॉर्न इन श्रूबरी इन 1809. चार्ल्स डार्विन जो है वो श्रूबरी में बॉर्न हुए 1809 में. ही ज्वाइंड द एक्सपीडिशन ऑन बीगल विजिट टू कॉन्टिनेंट साउथ अमेरिका. ही फाउंड दैट fauna and flora of different regions of the continent show similarities, but they were very distinct from the life form of Europe. लेकिन वो यूरोप की लाइफ फॉर्म से डिफरेंट थे. He also found the fossils which are clearly different from the modern species, जो कि मॉडर्न स्पीशीज से भी clearly different थे. Visits to Galapagos Island. Galapagos is island of South America. Although the species of Galapagos show resemblance with the South America, लेकिन most of the जो एनिमल स्पीशीज थी वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ गैलापागोस पे थी. दीज स्पीशीज वर नोवेयर एल्स इन द वर्ल्ड. द एनिमल डाइवर्सिफाइड ऑन द आइलैंड. इसका मतलब कि एनिमल ने अपने आप को उस आइलैंड पे डाइवर्सिफाई कर लिया. डार्विन कलेक्टेड 13 टाइप ऑफ फिंचेस फ्रॉम गैलापागोस आइलैंड. दे आर क्वाइट सिमिलर बट बिलोंग टू डिफरेंट स्पीशीज. Darwin come back to Great Britain in 1836. The organisms with different variations separated from original habitat by geographical barrier. He proposed natural selection as a mechanism of evolution. उसने natural selection को as a mechanism of evolution के तौर पे पेश किया. 1844 में डार्विन ने एक long essay लिखा on origin of species and natural selection. Wellick also proposed theory of natural selection identical to the Darwin theory. In the Darwinian view, the history of life is like a tree. विद मल्टीपल ब्रांचिंग एंड रीब्रांचिंग, कि हिस्ट्री ऑफ लाइफ जो है वो एक ट्री की तरह है जिसमें मल्टीपल ब्रांचिंग और रीब्रांचिंग हो रही है. डार्विन सजेस्ट दैट पॉपुलेशन ऑफ डिफरेंट स्पीशीज बिकम बेटर अडॉप्टेड टू देयर लोकल इन्वायरमेंट. न्यू डार्विनिज्म को हम साइंथिसिस थ्योरी भी कहते हैं. Origin of species convinced most biologists that species are product of evolution. Natural selection theory proposed by Darwin is modified on the basis of population genetics, variation within population, and quantitative characters. Evidences of evolution. Evidence from biogeography. Biogeography means geographical distribution of species. According to Darwin, islands have many species of plants and animals that are endemic but closely related to species of the nearest mainland. Armored mammals live only in America. Evolutionary view of biogeography predicts that present-day armadillos are modified descendant of earlier species, and these species occupied this continent. Evidence from fossil record. Fossils are either the actual remains or traces of organisms that lived in ancient geological time. Organisms may be embedded in resins, sand, ice. Organisms may be embedded in resin, sands, and ice. An impression or cast is made of body parts, tissue being replaced or petrified by silica and calcium carbonate minerals, fossil found in sedimentary rocks. Comparative anatomy. Comparative anatomy, homology, and homologous organs. Similarity in character resulting from common ancestry is known as homology, and the organ are known as homologous organ, and evolution is divergent evolution. Analogy and analogous organ, organ which show similarity in function but structurally different, and they evolve from different ancestors. Evolution known as convergent evolution, मतलब जहाँ पे जो स्ट्रक्चरली जो सेम है लेकिन फंक्शनली डिफरेंट है वो है होमोलोगस ऑर्गन लाइक फोल्डिंग ऑफ ह्यूमंस, कैट्स, वेल्स एंड बेट. इसके अलावा विंग ऑफ बर्ड्स, इंसेक्ट्स, बैट्स, ये सारे जो हैं इनका फंक्शन सेम है लेकिन स्ट्रक्चर डिफरेंट है. इसे हम एनालॉगस ऑर्गन कहेंगे. और इस तरह के एवोल्यूशन को कन्वर्जेंट और इस तरह के एवोल्यूशन को डाइवर्जेंट एवोल्यूशन. Comparative embryology, closely related organisms go through similar stages in their embryonic development. All vertebrates embryo develops gill pouch on the side of their throat. Embryo show more similarities than the differences. Embryo के अंदर similarities ज़्यादा होती हैं than the differences. Molecular biology, relationship can be found in their DNA, proteins, and their gene and gene products. Gene and protein of two species have similar sequences. Example, cytochrome C, A are a respiratory protein found in all aerobic species.